Hello, everybody. I am just making sure I'm going live on all my platforms. Hello, everyone. Happy Australia Day to everyone who celebrates. Just let a few more of you join in the chat and make sure I don't boomer things on my end. G'day, Michael. Hi, Dalmez85. Hope I pronounced that correctly. G'day, Shooter Down Under. Happy Australia Day to you. My name is Kate Fantanell, or Lady Liberty, and I did one of these live Q&As last week, and a lot's happened since then, so I just thought I'd take this opportunity to do another one, especially now that I've launched my legal action challenge in Western Australia against the gun laws. Yes, I'll be talking about that tonight, so please put your questions in the chat. I'll get through as many as I can. Hope you've got a drink. Cheers. I'm on the Grant Bird Prosecco Rosé, a nice South Australian drop. I've had a few beers today. I thought it was time to switch. So cheers. Happy Australia Day. I've got my flag ready to go. I spent my day at the beach here in Port Germain near where I live. It was just bloody beautiful to see so many people out celebrating, so many Australian flags, so many beers flying around, just great vibes, great day to get out and celebrate our great country and everything it means to be Australian. I'm still proud to be an Australian. You can love your country but hate your government. I think people confuse your government with representing your country. We are still individuals. We can still celebrate how we see fit. And just a friendly reminder that the first fleet landed on the 18th of January, so not the 26th. So all this debate about changing the date, there's always going to be a problem with the date. No one is ever going to be 100% happy. I think it's time that we moved on from that. I think Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has set reconciliation back, especially with his divisive voice referendum that we had. So please don't point fingers at us just because we love celebrating what it means to be Australian to us on this public holiday. So happy bloody Australia Day to all those who celebrate. So I have quite a bit to get through tonight. And I just wanted to firstly say to everybody that I am not running for the Western Australian Parliament anymore, nor will I be running at the federal election, which is scheduled to be sometime in April and May. I am not running for office. I put that behind me. I did get a few more calls this week with a generous offer to run number two to a few other candidates, and I've clearly said no, I'm not running in the political race. I feel I can be more effective with my legal action. You cannot launch legal action while you're running for Parliament at the same time. Parliament's role is to make the laws. The judiciary, the judges, the courts are there to rule if the laws are valid or not. I feel that there is no political solution in the short term for shooters in Western Australia. So I have put all my time and energy, dedication to launching this legal action challenge, which I think will be far more effective for shooters than simply relying on a political solution. So I've had a few questions about that because people were concerned the fundraiser might turn into a political exercise by me. No, I am not running. I will not be running for WA Parliament this time, nor the federal elections. I just wanted to make that clear. I know a lot of people are still disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm devastated. I wanted to run against Police Minister Paul Papalia in Secret Harbour. I feel that that is my mission and my duty. But when you don't have the support of the large shooting organisations there, and some of them actively campaigning against me, it is not something that someone can do alone. Even if I did, which I did have the support of key minor parties who were going to endorse me as an independent in that seat, I couldn't do it given the political situation with the shooting organisations in WA. So I've had to pull my hat out of that race. I've had to say that I can't do it anymore. I can't be in politics in the current climate, as devastating as that is. I know for a lot of people, and yes, I'm still getting phone calls about running number two. to other candidates who don't have the same profile and haven't had the dedication that I've had. But that's what happens, right? There's an election around the corner. In Western Australia, it is the easiest state to be elected in upper house. You only need 2.1% to get across the line. I would do that based on my Senate race from 2022. I know that. I think a few people either don't know that, don't understand that, or want to use what I've built to get their boy up. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be used when people are just posturing for power. It's as simple as that. Everyone's running around trying to get candidates together. I understand the Nationals are scrambling to get a candidate to run against Police Minister Paul Papalia in that seat. I'm surprised that it's come down this late in the game. You have to have your candidates up by the 12th of February, so they're leaving it very late. You should have been campaigning in that seat 4 years ago, like I have been. But that's what's happening when there's elections around the corner and everybody wants a bite at the cherry. So I will be coming to Western Australia. I'm still home in South Australia at the moment. I'm heading east next week with my husband, who's got some work to do in Victoria. So unfortunately, I have to head back across the border to the People's Democratic Republic of Victoria, but I've got some great friends there, and there's some people in the Liberty movement that I cannot wait to catch up with. So I'll be heading there for a little bit before heading west. I cannot wait to be back in WA. I'm so excited to be back. Should be there around the middle of February at this stage. I'll be driving across the Nullarbor. I have never done that before, so I'm very excited. Heading to Esperance, and I've got some friends and fans in that part of the world, hopefully visiting as many gun shops that I can, spreading the word about my legal action, because that is where I believe that I can be the most effective and where I can help shooters the most. So, hello, happy Australia Day. If you're just joining me, I'm Kate Fantanell, Lady Liberty, live streaming from my dad's gun room, best room in the house, and I'm here to answer all of your questions about my legal action challenge and anything else you want to know. So pour yourself a drink and let's get into it. I'll be having a few more breaks this time. Last time I was speaking. I was exhausted afterwards, so please bear with me. It's really hard to do this by yourself. So cheers. Happy Australia Day. So I'll just go over what I've organised in regards to legal action. I have put together a team of some of Western Australia's finest lawyers who are willing to work on this case. I know there is another fundraiser that set out to do a similar thing in terms of launching legal action. I have spoken to the organizer of that fundraiser so that we're not doubling up, and we will be sharing information and working together. That was one of the first questions I had. The difference between what I'm doing and what the other fundraiser is doing is I understand he is looking at high court challenges. So I don't want to give you a year 10 legal studies lesson here, but there are different levels of courts in Australia, just like there's different levels in Parliament. The judiciary have different areas of court. Some of you might be familiar with the family court, for example, especially if you've had disputes about custody or gone through a divorce. There's the family court. There's the High Court of Australia that deals with constitutional challenges. And we saw that during the pandemic when Clive Palmer, love him or hate him, he took the border closures, the WA border closure specifically, to the High Court because there is a clause in our Constitution that allows people freedom of movement between all the states and territories. That is a right that every Australian has. Clive Palmer took that to the High Court when WA had its border closed and they would not let him in. And the High Court ruled that in a pandemic, our right to freedom of travel does not apply. So, in a state of emergency, we do not have a right to freedom of movement. That's something that upset me greatly as I'm from South Australia and I couldn't come back and see my family for 2.5 years. The border was closed for 2.5 years. I'm still not really ready to talk about it, but that's what happened in that state. A lot of us who migrated there, we couldn't go see our families. We missed out on funerals. We couldn't say goodbye to our loved ones. It was very hard for those of us who weren't from that state to live through that time. And I just want people from WA to have a bit of empathy for that. Imagine not being able to travel in your own country to see your family. It was very hard on me, and it's something that I'm grateful that Clive Palmer took that challenge up, because it does cost a lot of money. And that's the other thing too. High court challenges are costly. He had the money to do it. He did it and he still lost. So my lawyers are not going down the route of constitutional or high court challenges. We have had a look at it just to see if there are any options there. But now that I've spoken to the other fundraiser, and that's what the case he will be prosecuting, that's not what my lawyers are looking at. I have instructed my lawyers, and I will be. The other important thing to note is it is expensive. Lawyers are expensive. We all know that. I have launched the GoFundMe. The target is on there so that I can afford to pay for this team. They have negotiated with me to do it at a very generous price, because they are supporters of what I believe in, and I would not work with anyone who doesn't align with my way of thinking. So I'm grateful that I've found lawyers in Western Australia who are willing to take this very sensitive case on. It's not easy to challenge the government, especially when it comes to firearms laws, because we don't have the community on side. And I've spoken about that before, the importance of educating other Australians about what we do, our sport, how we are a public service to them, especially with protecting our native lands and our landowners' properties. We don't have the support of the public. So it is a bit of a risk for lawyers to put their head up and say, look, we will help you challenge this. I'm in the position, because of all the networks I've made and all the coalitions I've formed, that I do have connections with quite a few key lawyers in Western Australia who I have been talking to throughout this whole time. And I've come to the point now, because I was focused on the political solution. Now I do not believe that there is one. I think we will see a Labor government returned at the next election, even if there are big swings against them. Firearms is not going to be the first thing on their agenda. It's just not. So it's going to take at least another 4 years for a political solution. And we don't even have agreement from any of the parties on how we get to a point where we're all happy. We want to go back to the drawing board. Great. Who will be sitting at that table negotiating the new laws? We've seen what has happened this time around with the shooting organisations sitting at the table with these terrorists who have negotiated away our rights in favour of protecting their organisations. Sorry, that's the reality. I do not trust that another review will leave shooters any better off. Can't trust them anymore. The results speak for themselves. I firmly believe, after talking to countless lawyers, that legal action is the only solution. My lawyers are looking at potential Supreme Court challenges, so Western Australian Supreme Court challenges. And I'll just give you an example that I raised with them is the gun limits, right? Everyone's very upset about the gun limits. We've had people present evidence to the government to say, we need more than 10 guns to be able to efficiently do our job with pest control. We just need that. That's the reality of guns in that environment. And the government has not listened to that. They have banned things by aggregation. By limiting the number of private property we own constitutes a ban. That's one thing my lawyers are looking at. It's not an explicit ban, it's banning by aggregation. That's one example. I can't get into too many of the details yet because I haven't received the official legal advice. That's what I'm raising money to pay for. I can say that I have a King's Counsel on the team of lawyers who is a very highly respected lawyer who is going to write this letter of opinion, it's called, and list the areas where shooters can challenge the laws in the Supreme Court. This is the information that I promise I will give to you so you can consider your options and you can take this to court. Let's flood the courts. We cannot sit here and wait for a political solution that isn't going to come in the next term of government. It might take a whole other term, a whole other election cycle to get to the point where we do have politicians who say, hang on, there are more of Australians now who value liberty and understand that they need guns in this country. then the law will change. We just don't have that at the moment. We don't have the public on side. You've seen the scare campaign in the West Australian propaganda newspaper. We don't have the public on side. So I believe legal action is the way. So, any questions you want to ask me about that, I've dropped the GoFundMe in the comments because I need to raise this money to be able to pay for it. I'm doing all of this work for free. I don't have an organization sponsoring me, a business sponsoring me, anyone sponsoring me. I do this out of the generosity of my heart and it's my passion. And I'm in a position at the moment where I have the time. I'm home in South Australia for the first time in a long time and I want to help Western Australia. I have not stopped thinking about WA since the day I left back in March last year. And I've had so many messages from people sharing how hurt they are, sharing how these laws are going to destroy their lives, their livelihood. And I cannot sit back and chase the political solution when I know how corrupt politics is. I know it's a power hungry game. Politics is a dirty business. My late grandmother, bless her soul, that's what she used to always say to me. So I'm going down the route of legal action. I want to get a legal opinion. That is one thing missing in this whole debate. I don't know why the shooting organizations haven't paid for this advice themselves. I know a lot of them do enjoy throwing money at lawyers without delivering any results. I'm in a position where I have this team. I have a KC who's put his hand up and he wants to write this advice so we know what the bloody hell we can do instead of just running around believing politicians when they say to us, we'll change the laws, we'll change the laws. Can't trust them. Let's get it before a judge. Let's get a ruling on this. Let's go. So hopefully that's answered some of your questions. I'm happy to go through any more. I'll just have a look through the messages. Thank you to Mr. Liberty for being my Jamie for the evening. What else would you rather be doing on Australia Day, Sunday night, except watching me answer and chat to the screen? He tells me I'm easy on the eyes, so at least he's not being punished. Can somebody please tell me how I have subtitles running her words before she says them? Have I got a time machine? Oh, I don't know what's going on, David. I am in South Australia. If you're in WA, I am from the future. You guys are 2.5 bloody hours behind, so it's a bit hard. I've been up very late on these meetings with my lawyers, and I am still doing work on the political solution. I haven't washed my hands entirely. I am helping get the information about where candidates sit and what politicians are going to do. So I am working on the election behind the scenes. I'm on the phone all the bloody time. It won't stop ringing, but I am getting the information and I am a journalist. That's my background. I studied a Bachelor of Journalism. I did postgrad public relations. So this is my forte. I will be bringing you information about the election in WA, absolutely. But my focus is on real legal action. So, okay, Dill Maz 85. Does WA stand a chance anymore? Only if Gina Reinhart runs for PM. But then she's a drongo as well. We're really not going to make it as a nation, are we? Gina's an interesting one, and I understand that she owns big properties in Western Australia, not just her mining tenements, but property. And she will also be affected by the gun laws because that is not her primary income, right? From her property. Her primary income is from her mining tenements. So she is going to be affected by these laws. If Gina wants to give me a call and donate some money, I would love to talk to her. I think she's one of those Aussies that just stands up for what she believes in. I know she cops a lot of crap and she's got her family issues and it must be very hard to be in her position. But if she wants to get behind us, I know that she does value liberty. So if anyone's got Gina's number, please tell her to give me a call because we need all the help we can get. Shooter Down Under, if you're successful with this, would this work for the other eastern states? That's another good question that I've had too. So, why lawyers are looking at the WA laws, the Act and the regulations in Western Australia. If other states bring in similar laws, then this can also be used to advise shooters in other states what their legal opportunities are. But at the moment, this is purely about WA state based legal challenges in the Supreme Court, not High Court constitutional things, which the other fundraiser is doing, which is great. And I'm glad people have donated to him too, because that's another piece of information. I don't see a High Court constitutional challenge working, but perhaps his lawyers have got some more information that I'm not aware of. So we do need to have all the cases covered, all the fronts covered. This is not just a one-pronged attack, which is why I'm saying it's not just a political solution. It's a battlefield, right? You need to be able to have all your fronts covered and different lines of attack. So that's what I'm doing. Lee Martin, can anything be done about the stupid property letter system or opening up public land for hunting? Legally, I mean. Yes, my lawyers will be looking at the property letter system and what's going on there. This is the thing that frustrates me, right? Whatever happened to private property ownership in Australia, property rights? That's what all laws should be based on. The fact that if we own a piece of land, we can do whatever we want on that land. It's not the state's business to be telling us what caliber of gun we can use, how many shooters we can have our property at one time, what kind of pests that the government thinks we have. It's government overreach. We need to be able to run our properties, our farms. We need to be able to run them as the owner with who is in the best position to decide what is best for their land. It is not the role of government to be employing bureaucrats to look at our private information about our own land and tell us who we can and can't have on there to shoot. It has gone far too far. I will be getting my lawyers to look at that system because it's just insane what they've done with the new laws. So I'll definitely be looking at that. And I think that's a really good question because I know a lot of people have messaged me about that as well. And I saw Kirby from Williams Fox Hunt posting about how the people who property she shoots on, they don't want to be bogged down with this bureaucratic nonsense, right? We have a job to do. We're out there on our weekends doing this public service to help our farmers out for free or with our own money that we pay for our own ammunition. It's just gotten to the point where they're making it so bloody hard. And I think that's their intention, right? To make it so bloody hard that we'll just give up. And I'm not giving up. I'm taking it to the courts. I'm getting this legal information so we know what we can challenge and on what grounds we can challenge it. Let's get a ruling. Put it before the courts. The courts are separate to the parliament. They have to be. I know that the government appoints judges. I get that. I don't like it either. But when a judge is presented with all the facts, they have to rule according to the facts they're presented with. It does not matter if they're appointed by a Liberal or a Labor politician, their job, and they swear an oath. That's what a judge is meant to do. And that's why it's so important that I've got this King's Counsel writing this letter of advice. It's the highest level we can go. It is expensive. I have negotiated down the costs. Thank you. Thank you to the lawyers for that. Otherwise, it would just be it's really hard. And that's the other thing about Australia. It is hard for people to take things to court because it does cost a lot of money. But I want to get this information. And the quickest way we can do that is if we all pitch in so I can get this information and I will be sharing it with you. I've already waived my client's rights over that information because I want to share it with you. It's not just me going to be challenging this. I want as many shooters as I can. I'm doing this for the people. All right, I'm just going to have a drink. Sorry, I'm rambling away already. Happy Australia Day. I'm Kate Fantanell, just here having a chin wag about my legal action. Thank you so much to everyone who's donated so far. I've been so humbled to receive the support that I have. I've had gun shops in Western Australia contact me and rangers keen to put up a poster. There are posters you can download on my website, ladyliberty.com.au. Feel free to put them up wherever you like, just to get the word out there. Anything helps. Share the links. I put the links in the chat. Just if you can't donate now, that's fine. Maybe next payday, or send it to a mate who's got a bit of spare cash lying around. Just anything helps. Every little bit helps. And thank you so much to everyone who's donated so far. It's great to see. And I am working the phones. I'm calling around. I'm trying to get other people to donate, and potentially organisations too, because there are still good organisations in Western Australia, good shooting organisations. I'm working with one of them at the moment, my friends at WAZA. Thank you, Ralph. Happy Australia Day if you're listening. There are groups out there who feel the same way as you, and who were excluded from the consultation, and have got serious concerns. And this is affecting people on the individual level too. Like, people are hurting, and I do not want, if anybody is feeling really distressed, please send me a message. I'm happy to have a chat to you, because I know people are really suffering. And I have been speaking to my dad, and he can't even imagine if he was put in this position, because this is his passion. He's spent his whole life saving up money, sacrificing so he could get the guns that he wants and needs for the activities that he does. He kills a lot of goats up in the hills here. So he spent a lot on his reloading too, and he just cannot even imagine being in the position that WA shooters are in. So doing this for you, and I'm doing it because it's not right what's happening. Alrighty, get back to some questions. Nathan Allen, I'm convinced that other states are watching to see what happens in WA, so it will help other states. Why do we need property letters? Other states don't. You're absolutely bloody right, Nathan. Other shooters in other states and governments in other states are definitely watching what's happening in WA. They will point to WA's laws as soon as they come fully into effect and say, we need to do what they're doing. And then the laws will spread. I've said this from the start. Aussie Reviews, my mate, absolute bloody legend that he is, he's said the same things too. Governments talk to each other. They have their council meetings, national police meetings, a big one that I used to follow when I worked at SSAA National. I used to watch what they would put out after those meetings about what they would agree to at these meetings and take back to their states to legislate or change the regulations. Governments talk, especially when they're the same colour, and there's a lot of Labor governments running this country at the moment. There's one in South Australia where I am at the moment, Victoria. God help their souls. I've had a Labor government for far too long. This is what they do. They all get in there, they share their crazy ideas, their agendas, their ideology, and then they push it through in other states. I do not want these laws spreading. This is why I want them to take it to the courts, right? Flood the courts with this, get them overruled so that it doesn't spread. It is the duty of Western Australian shooters to do what we can to help protect other states. And I'm so grateful I've had shooters from other states chuck in some money, because they feel the same way. They understand that these laws will spread, and you would have to be naive to think that they won't. So, good question, Nathan. Dilmaz85 said, been saying it forever. Referendum for free speech, right to self-defense, and castle doctrine property rights. All things positive for our country would flow from that. The problem is that there's no political willpower for the federal government, who are the ones who have to hold the referendums, to do this. They don't want us to have free speech. They certainly don't want us to have castle doctrine. They don't even want us to have the right to self-defense in our own homes with any means possible. That's what I want, right? We're not going to have that in Australia. And I hope one day it will get to a point. A thing that comes up quite often is if we left the monarchy, if we became a republic, great. But do you really want the politicians at the moment writing the constitution? Can you imagine what that would look like? The way I could see it working is if we had a referendum on every aspect of the constitution. So, First Amendment, for example, if we copy our cousins in America, free speech, let's take that to a referendum. I'm a bit scared that not all Australians would vote for that. That's another thing we have to do outside of politics is educate Australians about what free speech actually means and why it's very dangerous to start censoring free speech, because that speech, the hate speech stuff, will just go underground and then you cannot challenge it. If people are having these conversations outside of the mainstream, people will find other ways to have these conversations and their ideas don't get challenged. The way that you combat those kind of hateful thoughts is with conversation. So censoring people's speech, bad, bad, bad. I would love us to have the right to free speech in Australia and the castle doctrine and self defense. But until we get to the point where we vote on becoming a republic, which perhaps we will see in my lifetime, I would really hope that when we go about writing a constitution, it's written by the people for the people, not by the politicians and lawyers for them. Mitch Wilson, I understand we are talking about legal action here, and I'm all for that too. But I think we need to get everyone on the same page of how to vote in the state election. If everyone is going for small independence, then we have no chance. That is a good point, Mitch. So I believe as well, and I said before that I am still working on the political solution as much as I can. I'm identifying candidates that will support shooters at the moment, and that's something I've been on the phone a lot about recently. And I know that you mentioned independents too. And I understand that there are currently two groups of independents with 5 candidates, which means they'll be above the line on the ballot, who are posturing for positions too. I know one of them is on our side when it comes to what we think about guns, so that's great. It is very difficult for independents to get elected because of the voting system. That's something Labor has deliberately done, made it hard, and they have done that federally too. Very hard to get elected as an independent. And in relation to getting everyone on the same page on how to vote, it also depends what lower house electorate you're in. But because they've abolished the upper house electorates, I can definitely help provide information about upper house candidates where everyone across the state gets to vote where they sit and who best to support. And I'm really hoping that there will be an opportunity to have an upper house candidate town hall event in WA. That's something I'm working on as well, um, so that we can get these candidates in a room, a private venue, so there'll be no police wanding us or taking our photos, in a comfortable, safe environment to ask them questions. I'm really hoping I can pull that off. So bear with me and I'll bring you news on that too. I will also be back in WA mid February, and I'll be doing as many interviews as I can with these candidates just to ask them the question, where do you sit? What are you going to do if you're elected for shooters? Putting them on the spot, getting it on the record, and then if they backflip on that, as politicians tend to do, we have that to use them against them next time. And that's the other problem with politics, right? They could promise us the world. There's an election around the corner. Of course, I'm getting all these phone calls from would be candidates saying, "Oh, I believe what you believe." And then they'll say something very differently the moment they're elected. We cannot let them get away with it. That's why I believe that we need to have legal action going in parallel to any political solution. So we have that. We have the ability to take it to the courts and not just rely on politicians, because if you just trust politicians, very dangerous way to live. So, Austrad Hunter, Labor are completely corrupt. So, do you think they'll allow for a lawsuit? Dictators hate being challenged. Unfortunately for Labor, we still live in a democracy where we do have the separation of the parliament and the judiciary. So, if we get all the information and if my KC identifies that there are, which he already has, by the way, and I have too, if there are abilities for us for legal recourse and we take it before a judge and we have all our evidence in order, they have to rule that way. Australia is not at the point now that it is that corrupt that the judiciary cannot rule when the evidence presented to a judge shows that the laws are invalid. So, yes, I know that lawyers, everyone has their opinions on lawyers. I do as well. I'm grateful that I've actually met some really great lawyers in my lifetime, um, and they've always looked after me. So that's why I'm very careful who I work with. I make sure they're aligned with my way of thinking. I'm very firm about the cost is one thing that I was firm on. I said we've already had this fundraiser at the same time, so I just want to make sure that we're getting value for money. And yeah, okay, Jake Taylor. These are the comments you're watching. Well, hello. So you say your lawyer's one of the finest. He was admitted to law in 2013 and has only done personal injury cases with now evidence he has takes on something as specialized as this. I have a KC on my case as well. I don't have just one lawyer. I have a KC and two other lawyers. Plus, I am also talking to three other independent lawyers separate to my legal team as well. I am not naive enough to just trust the word of one man, particularly if they're a lawyer. No offense to my loyal lawyer friends. And look, we need more firearm lawyers in WA. I know there's Ross Williamson. He's a bloody legend. He's done some great work. We need more lawyers to be specialized in this law, and they're not going to be able to specialize if they don't have a case to work on. He was very surprised, and a few other lawyers I've spoken to were surprised that there hasn't been a big flood of shooters calling them. Perhaps because we've all been focused on the political solution, perhaps because we expected our shooting organizations to go out and get this legal advice. This is the missing piece in the puzzle of information that shooters need. We need this letter of advice, letter of opinion from a KC who can go through the law with his legal team and say, this is where we can challenge it. I'm trying to bring that information to you so you can decide if you want to take it to the courts. At least you will have options. Right now, all you're being told is vote the Nationals and they will save you. As insulting as that is not a solution. You need to have more options on the table. This is a war. I'm sorry, but it is a war. We need to have all our fronts covered, different lines of attack. This is the route I'm going down. Another fundraiser is doing the High Court stuff. Thank you so much for that. That's so costly, and I know that you're under a lot of pressure and stress because dealing with lawyers, it is a specialty area. That's why they go to uni for so long. So we need all hands on deck. We need all the approaches we can get. And I'm sorry that you have that opinion about this lawyer, but I'm grateful to him because no one else has put their hand up and said that they're willing to work with me on this. And I finally found someone and a KC, and I'm grateful that they're working with me because we need this information. But thank you for your question. I'm happy to take any questions. I know not everyone agrees with me, and that's fine. You have a right to your own opinion. So please, as long as you're respectful to me, I'll answer any questions. And happy Australia Day, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I think most people were out today. It was 42 degrees here in South Australia. I went for a swim, had a few beers at the beach. So now I'm joining you for my Q&A. So happy Australia Day. And if you hear any yelling, it's because my dad's watching the tennis. Sinner, the Italian tennis player, is playing, so he's gone into Italian mode at the moment. If you hear any yelling, it's just my dad. Shooter down under. Premier John Tonkin passed tough gun laws in WA in the 70s, and it was used as a template for the 1996 firearms agreement. That's another thing that I want to point out. The 1996 National Firearms Agreement is not a legally binding document. The states still hold the residual powers to legislate gun laws. They did not cede these powers to the federal government in 1996. This is a myth that has been perpetrated by the media that Australia has national gun laws. Most shooters would know that we don't because there are different laws in each state. You don't even have to abide by the 1996 NFA rules. The states have the power to write whatever gun laws suits their jurisdiction and whatever the people of that jurisdiction want. It is not the business, or the federal government does not have any power to override the states on gun laws. They can hold up the document, the 1996 document, but it's in, in relation to a legal document, it's as worthless as the piece of paper it's written on. Federal government does not have the power to legislate firearms laws. They have the power at customs, yes, for import and exports, but when it comes to what we do in our own states, the parliament of the state has the powers. So that's something I want to make very clear because a lot of Australians don't understand that. And why would they? The media portrays it as if we have to abide by the NFA. And I was horrified, by the way. I was horrified when the new gun laws came out in WA and we had the Shooting Industry Foundation of Australia that represents the big dealers in this country write an opinion piece saying WA should go back to the NFA. Why are you now advocating for Howard's gun laws? We don't like them either. I remember 1996. I remember my dad being treated like a criminal because of the actions of that madman in Tasmania. I've seen how it's affected him, and it was not fair. Why is the Shooting Industry Foundation now advocating that Howard's gun laws is something that WA should even look at? WA can do whatever the fuck it wants. Sorry about my language. I promised my dad I wouldn't swear, but I'm getting a bit fired up. The states have the power to do whatever they want when it comes to gun laws and what the people of the state want. So I just want to make that very clear. NFY Tim. The biggest insult is I can no longer teach my kids and grandkids shooting the air rifles. No recreational use outside of clubs. WTF. I agree. WTF. Air rifles category D. Are you being serious, Papalia? You are a man of the military and you've categorized air rifles as category D. That is something that beginners should learn to shoot on. I remember in South Australia at Adelaide, there's this big German festival called Schützenfest, and they always have an air rifle range set up there. And I've taken so many friends who are a bit scared of guns, who have never seen a gun before, a bit nervous. I've taken them to shoot air rifle. No recoil, fun. Most of the time it's sighted in okay. A great opportunity for people to learn how to shoot. And they've just made it category D in WA. Like, talk about trying to restrict people from getting into the sport if you're going to make that. And I know SSAA WA had their air rifle range that they took to the Perth Royal Show. Great idea. Great way to introduce people to the sport. And now we can't. I'm so sorry they've done that to you. That is one of the things I will be looking at with my lawyers as well. Legalised Cannabis Australia 420. Hello, my friends in Legalised Cannabis. I am a member of your party in WA. I love the work of Dr. Brian Walker, who's done some fantastic work in the WA Parliament, especially for shooters, holding them to account. And you've asked what have been some of the biggest eye openers for you since you have gotten more involved in politics and the law over the years. I'll just have a sip of my drink before I answer this one. I think one of the biggest things that have opened my eyes during my time in politics, and I've been in this a while, I think it's coming on 15 years, perhaps even longer, I'm getting old, is that people who don't go into it with the best intentions and with their own self interest. And I've seen a lot of that happen the last few years, particularly in the Libertarian Party in Australia. I've just seen people who want to be politicians, and that's a first red flag, especially for libertarians and caps like me. You don't ever want to be a politician. You want to shrink the size of government. So someone who's very excited to be a politician as a libertarian doesn't really work. And if you haven't done the work outside of the system to try and do what you can to shrink it and educate others about why we need less government interference in your life, and then all of a sudden you want to be a politician, it also doesn't add up to me either. So that's probably been one of the biggest things that I've seen in politics over the years is I'm a very trusting person. I'm from the country. I take people at their word, and that unfortunately people don't seem to Always be honest, especially in politics. That's one of the hardest lessons I've learned as well. And people will use you. People will use you, and they'll say all the nice things to you and butter you up and get what they want out of you, and then suddenly you're in a position that you didn't want to be in. And I had that happen to me in Victoria when I went over there to help David Limerick get elected. I was chewed up and spat out, and I was not in a good place after that. And I've also seen it recently, right? That's why I'm getting all these phone calls about we need you in WA Parliament. Can you run number two to our male candidate? We need a woman on the ticket. And that to me, after everything that I've done, all of my work, my dedication, to have men call me and just want to use me for political power, it honestly makes me sick. And I get it, it's a game, you got to play the game. I don't want to be involved in that crap. I actually want to serve the people and do what I can to help people. And that's why I'm doing my legal action thing instead, because I cannot work in a system that is so corrupt in Australia. Everyone's got their nose in the trough. Everyone's sitting at the table with governments trying to protect their organizations or get money here or money here for themselves and their mates. I despise that. I want people to be free. I want people to be left alone as long as they're not hurting anyone else. So it's been really hard to get to the point where I am, to really understand that not everyone has the best intentions. Not everyone is going into it to help the people. And that to me breaks my heart. What happened to politicians being public servants and people who want to serve the people? There are very few of them out there. And the ones that are out there, I will definitely let you know. Dr. Brian Walker is definitely one of them. Oztran Hunter, also, we all appreciate the work you do. Happy Australia Day. Thank you, Oztran Hunter. Happy bloody Australia Day. I've got my flag here. Posted a picture at the beach with it. Had a few people honking the horn, so I think that's a good thing. I didn't get abused. Oh, Ryan Smith, legalized cannabis party. We're out supporting Invasion Day today. That I seen when I was in the city today. Was that in Perth, Ryan? And look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think that's one thing I want to make clear. My mum said to me before, when you say Happy Australia Day, maybe say to all who celebrate. And I said, yes, mum, like I agree. Everyone can have their own opinion, but it's when you're forcing your view on other people to the point that you're bullying us because we don't agree. Because remember, the first fleet landed on the 18th of January, friendly reminder. But I understand, like, we do have a dark history in Australia, and some of the things that the British colonizers did to the Indigenous, terrible, terrible history. But like I said, all the steps towards reconciliation, everything that we've seen over the years, the Mabo decision, all this welcome to country money we've been given. Like, at what point do we get to as a nation before we go? We are all equal under the law. That's why I voted no to the voice, by the way, because I believe all Australians should be equal under the law. I should believe we should all have the same vote and the same representation in Parliament. I don't believe in creating different groups that can lobby the government paid for by taxpayer for their own interests. I want everyone to have equal representation, equality under the law. I don't think that that's a terrible thing to say. Equality is important. So if people were out today protesting about Invasion Day, I'll just say to them, well, what do you actually want? Like, we have changed the date before. At what point do you get to? I understand. For me, I think they just want reparations, and I don't think putting a group of Australians because of their race on constant welfare for the rest of their life is empowering at all. Actually, I think it's very disrespectful. I think we need to empower individuals so they can succeed. We need to get rid of a lot of regulations in this country so we can start our own businesses. And that's one thing Jacinta Price, the senator from Northern Territory, said when I had dinner with her, is that the land that some of the Indigenous people own, they're not even allowed to start their own businesses on them because the government has ruled that they can't. So how are they meant to make their own money when they're restricted? Like, yes, they have rights over that land for whatever reason, but they can't even use that to make their own money. Like, terrible way of dealing with it. So happy Australia Day. I love this bloody country, and I hope one day we can get to the point where we are all getting along a lot better than we are now. Please feel free to ask any questions you like. My primary purpose of doing this live stream is to answer questions about my legal action challenge that I'm starting against the WA state government for their gun laws. I have chucked the GoFundMe link in there. Perhaps, Axel, you can do it again. And I know there was a comment about you before from Dilmaz85. Where's Axel? There is not nearly enough autism on this stream for my liking. Didn't you like my history autism? I'm more of a history autist than a mathtism autist. Axel's here. He's being my Jamie. If you watch Joe Rogan, he's my Jamie for the evening. So good old Mr. Liberty. Finally found a good one. Legalised Cannabis Australia 420s just chimed in and said, I love a good barbecue. I had one for dinner tonight. We had Say Sorry Day. Yes, I remember that as well. I think that was Kevin Rudd who did that. I don't think they want the date changed. I think they want to remove Australia Day completely, and I'm proud to be an Australian. Perhaps they want to remove that day entirely, but like I said, everyone should have the opportunity to celebrate what it means to be Australian to them. So hopefully one day we can all move on, because it gets a bit tiring, all the division, right? And that's how they win, divide and conquer. They love us fighting about this stuff, virtue signaling, without it talking about the real issues. So no, we all need to work together if we want this country to succeed. Shooter Down Under, the only reason why the states have the 96 gun laws are due to the vertical fiscal imbalance. That's true. That was the bargaining chip that Howard used for the states to sign his wishy-washy piece of paper, was money to fund the gun confiscation. Another interesting, this is a Spurgy moment for you, Shooter Down Under, or Dilmaz, sorry, getting confused. Back in 96, Howard funded the gun confiscation scheme, and it was confiscation. It's not a buyback. You cannot buy back property you never owned. So please, when we have conversations about buyback, it's never a buyback, it's confiscation, full stop. Is one of the things Howard did. Is there is a clause in our constitution that says if the government is going to take property off of people, they have to offer a fair price. So that means back in 96, the federal government did go to gun dealers, and the Australian Shooter magazine that advertises guns. Now they have the SSAA online gun sales. Great website if you're looking to buy a gun. And they looked at that and they had to pay fair market price. And some people got more money than their gun than they paid for. But in WA, that didn't apply because that was for Australian governments. The Australian Constitution dictated that they had to pay fair market price. WA, they don't have that. They don't have to abide by that. So that's why you saw that bullshit. Sorry, Dad, I swore again. The bullshit table of how they worked out what a gun was worth based on the age it was registered in the state. Not even the age of the gun, the age it was registered, and also the type, handgun, shotgun or rifle, and the prices were just insulting. I had someone message me saying his gun was worth at least 10 grand, and the WA government offering scraps off the table. So, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's just horrific. Jake Taylor, so you're not going to take this to the courts to fight this. You're just going to create a war book for people to then challenge this. I am not going to be a litigant in court because I have transferred all my guns that I owned in WA to my dad in South Australia. I am still a resident of WA. That was the last place I lived. I have not been in one place for more than a month since I hit the road back in March. I'm coming back there, and that is still my home. I want to get the information to share with shooters how they can individually challenge these laws in court. I'm not in a position to challenge them. I'm in a position to get the information, and I understand the law. I've been a policy advisor to Senator Linehelm. I've been a policy advisor for a federal department before, and a life I'd prefer to forget. This is my bread and butter, reading gun laws, reading through the act and regulation, identifying areas that we can challenge. That's why I'm a great candidate to get this information to you. So that's what I'm doing. You don't have the information at the moment. Nobody has the information. Nobody has gone to get the information. I'm trying to do that for you so you know where you stand legally. You know where you can go for legal recourse. You can do it if you want to. That's what I'm trying to do. And I don't see anyone else doing that, by the way. And the High Court challenge that the other fundraiser is doing, great, because we need to know all the avenues that we have. There is no political solution. I cannot stress that enough. It's time to flood the courts. I'm going to share this information. As I said before, I've waived my client privilege over that information, which I don't have to do, but I am, because I want you to be in the position to decide for yourself how we can challenge this. And I will give you that information once I've raised enough money to get this KC to write this crucial piece of legal advice that we simply don't have. I don't have my guns in WA anymore. I gave them to my dad, so I can't be a litigant, and I'm not transferring them back just to go to court. I think I've done more than enough to put myself in a position of being attacked by the government. I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm the one who's getting disarmed. No bloody way. I also encourage people, if they are concerned about losing guns, to send them to a mate interstate, send them to a friend, get them the hell out of WA until we can get rid of these laws, which we do, by the way, by taking it to court and getting a ruling by the judge, not waiting on politicians who have got far more important things in their mind to worry about. We cannot simply wait. We need this legal advice. We need to get bloody going. And I'm so disappointed that nobody, apart from my other mate who's done that fundraiser, thank God for him. I've talked to him and he said he couldn't sit by and do nothing. So hats off to him. This is individuals rising up outside of organizations who have their own business to worry about. This is individuals doing what we can to help individual shooters. But good question, Jake, and thanks. Hope this isn't too torturous for you. I've got a comment on from X, apparently. I can't see it, so. David Armistice. We are not at all equal under the law. You know that. Why are you required to pay a fortune for legal representation when the government has an endless supply of the best legal team? The drunks hold the keys to the bar. They decide who gets to sip from the cup. It is not us. We are all equal under the law in terms of our rights. So, but I understand what you mean in terms of the government has all the money and the legal team to fight against us, and that's another thing that a few lawyers have said to me too, is they don't think it's fair either, by the way, that it is so costly. And we see it in America too. I talked to a lot of my mates in Firearms Policy Coalition over there and Gun Owners of America, who are the ones who flood the courts whenever a state law comes up that infringes their Second Amendment right. So I'm taking a leaf out of their playbook, by the way. I've spoken to my American mates, and that's another thing. They said, why aren't your organizations doing this? As soon as any bill or law or politician even says something that violates the Second Amendment, we've got our lawyers working on it straight away. Bam, 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 bam. Dedicated legal teams. Shooting organizations don't seem to have that, or the lawyers that they have don't seem to get the results. So that's what I want to do for shooters, is get real results, real legal advice that I can share. And that's another thing, right? Is usually there's client lawyer privilege. I'm waiving that because I want to share the information with as many people as possible. It's unusual. And a lot of lawyers have said to me, that's very unusual. But because I can't be the litigant, because I got my guns the hell out of WA when I hit the road, I could not leave them there to be confiscated because of my views, attitudes, and opinions. Um, I can't be the litigant, but I want to give the information to shooters so that they know what their rights are and where they can succeed and where we can challenge this in court. That's what I'm doing with my time. And if you've got anything you can do to help, my GoFundMe is in the chat. It's on my Facebook page. It's been doing the rounds in the shooting groups. Thank you to everyone who shared that. I've already been asked to go on a few hunting podcasts with my mate. I'm joining Zach tomorrow night from Hunting Connection podcast. Fellow South Australian, can't wait to catch up with him. There's a lot happening here too. Bow hunting is banned now in this state. So I'll be chatting to him about that tomorrow. And I'm on another one next week. I'm doing everything that I can to help shooters because I can't run for you in WA given the political situation and the shooting organisations working against me. So, Jake Taylor, good answer. I'll give you that. No, not torturous. Thank you. Your other mate is that RR. If so, good bloke. He's gone places. Be rad. Realistically, who will take this to court? The reality for most shooters is that they won't have the money to take the state to court. The legal advice is a great idea, but once we have that, would it not make more sense to fight this as a group? Yes, I know we need to stop fighting amongst ourselves first. I am also getting my legal team to look at potential class action lawsuits. So there were changes to the laws in WA in relation to class action lawsuits. We are looking at that too because I agree with you. It is very hard to do as an individual if you do not have the money. And if I'm in the position that I can help fundraise for someone who can take it to court but needs a little extra help, I would do everything I can to help individual shooters. I've already had messages from people who are interested and would like to meet with me to see if they're in a position to take it further. See, I'm doing a lot of work. I'm not just talking to lawyers and going, "Yay, let's flood the courts." I am actively talking to people that I know because of the position that I'm in and all the work that I've done. I'm talking to the right people. And if you want to contact me, if you've got an idea, please message me. I am compiling a list to present to my lawyers on what I think we can challenge. So if you've got an idea, if you've looked at the acts and regs and cried yourself to sleep like I have, and you've jotted down a point that you think, hang on, this doesn't seem right, please message me and I'll add it to my growing list of areas that we can challenge, can potentially challenge. I need to compile this information, so that's something else I'll be working on in all my spare time. So please, yes, but I agree. We will be looking at class actions, but also keep in mind I will help individuals too who are in a position to take this to court. I understand everything costs plenty of money, right? But because we have to pay to be members of our organisations that haven't helped us, we're left to do this as individuals. So that's what I'm doing. Happy Australia Day, everyone. I hope everyone's got a drink. I've been going for just over an hour now. I'll try and go another half an hour. I still need to get my live streaming fitness up. I thought all my workouts would help, but it's very different when you're just sitting here yabbering away. So please bear with me. Legalise cannabis Australia Forward 20. What state has the harshest gun laws, and do you think states vary so much on gun laws because some have a little fight left in them for reform? I think WA by far now has the harshest gun laws. By far, I mean, the limits on how many bloody guns we can own. We're not even talking about magazine or barrel length or caliber. It's purely arbitrary limits, which, as I said at the start of the live stream, is a ban by aggregation, which my lawyers are looking at challenging. It's just absurd. How the hell do they think that they're in a position to tell us the number of cars we can own, the number of fishing rods, like my mate Ira said before? No, this is property rights. They have no proof to say the more number of guns a person owns, it makes them more of a risk. It's just bullshit. So I think WA by far has the worst laws. Interestingly, Victoria seems to be okay, but they have the unions that get up and cause a big scene when they try and ban duck hunting, for example. They seem to be able to push back. And interestingly, Jacinta Allen, who's the premier there, who's from Bendigo, where my husband's from, she understands that duck hunting is a part of Victorian culture, and they do. A lot of South Oz people go over to Victoria for duck hunting season, which is opening soon, and that's something that politicians also seem to respect cultural reasons, right? And that's why in the laws in WA, the Indigenous Australians are exempt from the gun laws because they respect their hunting traditions. They weren't hunting with guns until we got here on Invasion Day or whatever you want to. It wasn't. They didn't arrive today. They arrived on the 18th of January. So everyone, calm down. Um, yeah, so they seem to respect cultural reasons. And I know something that happened here in South Australia is there's a big Greek club here. Greeks love their guns. I love the Greeks. They're a fun time. Love Italians and Greeks are very loud people. We love our guns. They just said to the government here when they wanted to bring in changes, we'll see you in court, because they've got the money and they're not going to let them trample over their traditions and their cultural things. And for me, it's a cultural thing too. I grew up here in Napaby and I went out to my grandma's farm every weekend. I was holding the spotlight for my dad as a kid, helping him hunting foxes, which taught me so much about that. And rabbits as well with my little 22. So that's part of my culture. I'm from the country. That's what we do. And a lot of Australians haven't grown up in the country like I have, so they don't understand my culture. I'm also Italian, so I love my Berettas, and Irish too. So that's something I also say when I get challenged on this by, it's more the left leaning side of politics, I suppose. I just say, but this is my tradition, this is my culture, this is what I do with my dad. We go to the range together on Sundays, and it's a father daughter time that I cherish and I've always cherished. And we're not hurting anyone. We're peacefully conducting our activities safely with this marksman skill that the government used to want Australians to learn. Back in World War One, they released wild boars in the bush, and sent the men out there to practice their marksman skills. So how have we gone from that to confiscating guns off veterans in WA? Like, this is an erosion of our culture and our tradition, and it's something, especially on Australia Day, I was thinking about today. I don't want to see my country change its culture and traditions because of a big government that has their own agenda and ideology and their own way of wanting to control us. No, this is what we do. We've always done it peacefully. It's such an important skill. I mean, hunting for your family in a cost of living crisis, that's why a lot of the bow hunters are very angry here in South Oz. That's how they put food on the table, literally, in a cost of living crisis. So, scary times. David Armistice, I hope I'm saying your name right. Good point. Government has an endless supply of legal arsenal. Government can lie their asses up every day. They do. They suffer no consequences, and we perpetually do. Fair? I don't think so. I agree that the level of accountability and also the transparency from our governments too. So just in the context of the WA gun laws is consultation process. They were having private meetings. We haven't seen the minutes. All of our papers in the consultation process have not been taken into account. So where is the accountability? Where is the transparency? And do governments forget that they're meant to serve the people, not their own factions or their own ideology or their own self interest? Australian politicians no longer represent the people, and I feel a lot of us are feeling like that. And I'm sad that I'm not running because I actually do want to represent the people, but because of the current way of Australian politics, it's the establishment, right? And that's why, as much as I have my problems with Trump, I admire that aspect of him. Is he's gone against the establishment, and that's why they hate him for it. That's why they're terrified of him, because he's running it like a business. He listens to the people. He's trying to be a president for everyone, unless you're not a boy or a girl. That's another issue. But when you challenge the establishment, they don't like it. And I've had legal threats against me from a certain shooting organization because they don't like what I'm saying. But I want to be able to tell the people how it is, and I want people to understand this is not an easy fight. I put up my video the other day when I went to Paul Papalia's office in my Senate campaign. The moment that cost me my professional career in Australia, I could not get a job after that campaign, and I haven't had a proper job since then because I went against the establishment and I put myself out there. And that's what happens in this country when you go against them. So still suffering, but I'm still here, and that's what counts, right? Um, Mitch Wilson just noted $200 to the fundraiser. Thank you, Mitch. You're a bloody legend. So grateful. This is what we need. Just chip in what you can. That's such a generous donation. Thank you, Mitch. I'm hoping that I can contact all the donors as well. I want to be able to call you all and have a chat because you are the ones who make this possible. I'm just in a position where I can talk to as many people as I can. I'm so grateful for that. I just call it how it is. I don't mean any offense to anyone as well. So I'm just trying to do what I can to help. So thank you, Mitch. Every little bit helps. I've got a fair way to go. I am making phone calls behind the scenes, but thank you. Bloody legend. Dilmaz85. I grew up Southeast SA, shooting as a kid. I was 11 when Port Arthur happened, and to this day, I've never understood how people went along with it. But now, as an adult, I see just how the government uses stick instead of the carrot. I remember when that happened too, because I remember seeing how upset my dad was, and everyone was upset. I mean, what happened in Port Arthur? I visited there a few years ago, 2020, and it did feel, yeah, I felt that I was in, well, it was a place that changed the course of Australia. And I know there's a great doco coming out looking into that. The criticism I do have of authorities at the time is that they did not release the files. They've sealed everything, and they've sealed it again for another 70 odd years. So only the police commissioner of Tassie can look at those documents. I'm all about transparent government, right? We deserve to know if these laws, which they have affected every one of us, even if you're not interested in guns, your ability to own them has been restricted. We deserve to know what happened. We deserve to see the docs. That's another great thing Trump did is he's releasing the JFK files. Huge, huge. Cannot wait for him to release the Epstein list as well, hopefully. We need to know what happened. Why are they ruling in secrecy? They are meant to serve the people. You have to be transparent with us. Like, tell us what's going on. Otherwise, this is when questions and conspiracies start, and people deserve to know. So, yeah, I remember that too. And I'm still devastated for my dad. If you've ever met him, he's sweetest man ever. He's my hero. I can't talk about him enough. He's the reason I am who I am. And he taught me how to shoot. He didn't give a flying F about gender or any of that crap. He was just like, this is a skill that he thinks his daughter should know, and taught me how to shoot. And so grateful to him for putting me on this path, even though it's not an easy one. But I feel like I'm doing what I can. Tim, on the tradition bit, there was a long time when government supply supplied 210 round to all males for use at defence ranges. Yes, a long time ago, but the militia, as referred to as 6 month at club, produces a better marksman. That 6 years army is what's made the diggers, the light horse, etc., the best in the world. It is our way of life. Amen. What a great thing to bring up on Australia Day. Yes, the government back in the day used to encourage young men, young Australians, to know how to shoot. We have to. And another thing that Bob Catter, crazy Uncle Bob, I had the pleasure of meeting him again up in Queensland last year. And he feigned a heart attack when he saw me again. And he was like, "You're a beauty, Kate." I was just like, "Hello, Uncle Bob." And he sat down with me and he just gave me this big speech about when he remembered 96 and he remembered seeing it on the news. And he instinctively, he was sitting on the couch and he reached down for a gun because he saw this crazy prick running around shooting people. And that was his instinct. And he believes that all Australians should have that right and ability to defend ourselves. Crazy Uncle Bob, I know sometimes we see him in the media, but when you talk to him about guns, he gets it. And he has said the same thing. He has said, we're sitting ducks in Australia at the moment with the crazy geopolitical situation. God knows what's going to happen in the South China Sea. I talked to my ex-husband, Michael, who's a lieutenant commander in the Navy, and even he doesn't know what's going to happen. It's such, maybe with Trump everything will be okay, but that's something we need to think about, right? Especially where we are in the world, in Australia. And if we don't have the skills and we don't have the guns because they've been confiscated by the government, what position are we leaving our own country in? That's why America, no one would ever invade America because the people have the ability to defend not only themselves and their home, but the nation, and that they have that sense of camaraderie there that they will defend their nation. And it's just they think it's crazy that Australia have gone this way down the gun control regime when we are sitting ducks. So that's something I implore people to think about too, is the bigger picture stuff. And these are some of the things I stay up late at night thinking about, right? Because I want Australia to be safe. So how do we protect our own borders if we don't have the bloody guns to do it? Or if we don't know how to use them? Like, scary stuff. If you think about it too much, you'll be up all night like me. So I've been going for nearly an hour and a half now. Happy Australia Day. Thank you for joining me. I've just done another Q&A about my legal action. If you can donate, please do. My GoFundMe is in the chat. It's also on my Facebook page. If you don't, if legal action is not for you, if you're from another state, I do have Patreon where I put up pictures. I'm an occasional gun model, so if you want to have a look at some photos, there's my Patreon, or I do have Buy Me a Coffee as well if you want to support my work. But I'm thinking I'll do these live streams every Sunday because it's the best way that I can talk to people. I do have also some merch now. Yes, I've been playing around. I'm not really a graphic designer, I'm a writer. So, but I do have the calendar, Lady Liberty 2025 calendar, which is all my photos from America with guns. There's my favorite picture of me shooting a belt fed. Oh, that was the best day of my life. Sorry, Axel. I know we got married on that trip, but nothing beats shooting a belt fed. So if you want to have a look at that to support me, that would be great. I am going to be talking to my mate Zach from Australian Hunting Connection podcast. Sorry, there's so many different groups. Hunting Connection podcast tomorrow night. I'll be doing a live stream with him about the situation in South Australia with the bow hunting ban and other things that have been happening in SA, and I am going on his show too. So we're recording two things back to back tomorrow. No rest for the wicked. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for all of your support. I really want to get this legal advice for you so that we know it's just another opportunity for us to look at how we can challenge these gun laws, because I don't feel that we can rely on the political solution. We need to flood the courts. I feel like that is our only other option now. So that's why I put my time, energy, and dedication to the legal action fight. So thank you to everyone who supported so far. Um, Happy Australia Day, Kate. Thanks for all you are doing. Thanks, Les and Dilmers. Again, too many people know the footy scores and not who the Deputy PM or Defence Minister is, and that therein lies the problems with Aussies and politics. True, true. We have been a bit pathetically apathetic when it comes to our political system, but the system is also rigged against us. I really feel that. Um, so that's why I'm doing my legal action, right? So we can take it to the courts, get a judge to rule on these bloody laws, because we're not going to see the parliament change it anytime soon. We have to we have to take responsibility for our own lives and use other means. So I'm going to wind up now because I'm tired. But thank you so much for joining me again. And I'll be live tomorrow night with Zach from Hunting Connection podcast, 7 o'clock South Oz time. So that's a bit earlier for my friends in WA. And then I'm going on his show straight after. So fun times ahead. Please feel free. I will do a post about what aspects of the Act and regulations in WA you think we can challenge. Please send that information to me. I'm working on my list now. As soon as I get enough money together through my GoFundMe, I will be in WA meeting with my lawyers, meeting with the KC and getting straight to it so we can have this information out as soon as possible. We want to try and get it out before the election, before the new parliament sworn in, so we can have the first case before the court straight away, before Labor can tinker around with it. But if they do tinker around with it because of legal challenge, that's a win, right? We want these laws changed. So threats of legal action which have the chance of winning, Labor will scurry and change that. Great. That's that's about putting pressure on them. We cannot rely on the shooting organizations anymore. We can't rely on politicians. We have to do it through pressure, through these kind of means. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm in a position to do. And I will do everything I can to help WA shooters because I feel it's my duty. Happy day, knowledge is power. Happy day, knowledge is power. Help us find the info, then we can target our fight. That's exactly right. Help us find the info, then we can target our fight. That's what I'm doing for you. So thank you for joining me again. Happy bloody Australia Day. I'm going to go have another beer. I think I deserve it after today. But cheers, everybody. I'm Kate Fantanell, Lady Liberty. Thank you to everyone who's donated so far. Please share it around, do as much as you can, and I will speak to you again soon.